Well, it's day 2 of test number 200 for the batsman that bats 2 down for India. He's not out 2 short of 40, and I've got 2 gentlemen who know him better than most other people. Welcome to Match Point. And well, if this series was always about Tendulkar from the very beginning, this day in the series is most definitely about him. Sanjay, Ajit, well, Sanjay, starting with you. This day is about Tendulkar, isn't it?
I'm too excited. Can't tell you. I mean, just imagine, the kind of emotions that are running today all over the world. We've seen, I mean, I was watching a channel like BBC, CNN, where you would imagine that they would not be really caught up in the Tendulkar frenzy, but they also were reporting, what happened yesterday, what's in store today. So yes, a very emotional moment for a lot of people. You just can't imagine how the man himself would be feeling. This morning.
I thought he was very decisive.
We're going to show you we're going to try and put in perspective as to how he would have been feeling. But Ajit's been with him in recent times. Ajit, Tendulkar, the overnight batsman in this recent time where he's aged, he's gotten a little older. How's he been in his prep overnight?
Generally he likes to be by himself when he's batting overnight, or even when it's a batting day the next day. I mean, as you know, in India, every time you step out of the room, there's someone wishing you well, or someone wants to say something to you, or wants you to get a 100 tomorrow, or get a double 100 tomorrow, which can be not a nuisance but a bit distracting at times when you want to be by yourself, want to prepare the way you want, and keep yourself in a good space. And that's what he tries to do. He wants to be in his room, just cut away from most things and worry about the next day. So that's what I've seen of him over the years. But this test is completely different.
It's different from any of the trends.
I'm sure he'll be even quieter last night.
Even quieter last night. But yeah, let's see what the match card looks like in the situation. India, of course, in a commanding position at stumps on day 1, 157 for 2. Murali Vijay and Shikhar Dhawan getting them off to a pretty decent start, but both of them falling in the same over. And the same over also produced the arrival of Sachin Tendulkar for what could very well be his final innings, depending on how this test match goes forward. Nice little 38 for Tendulkar. Quick word on Pujara, Sanjay, who gave steady support at the other end. That was equally important because he was the aggressor early on in that partnership.
But something that you expect from Pujara, because this is an attack that shouldn't really trouble him too much. He's a far superior batsman. Missed out in the first test match. But obviously the focus was so much on Tendulkar that Pujara was, somewhat ignored. And he was doing what Tendulkar was doing, getting confidently on the front foot. The moment the ball was short, they were getting onto the back foot. The technique of the Indian batsman has been just simply too much better than what we've seen from the West Indian batsmen. So their survival out there was pretty easy. Just the one comment I would want to make is on the line that Gabriel bowled to the Indian batsman, especially Tendulkar. We've seen Tendulkar in the last 1 year. The line that has troubled him has been mostly middle stump, where he's tried to miss the line and got bowled a leg before. And if you look at Gabriel, we saw his pitch map yesterday. There's not a single ball that's pitched on middle stump. Everything outside the off stump. So there is, I think, a dearth of ideas as well. Sammy obviously feeling the pressure, just going through the motions that time. So maybe there's huge reliance on Shillingford to do everything for them. Yeah,
they are relying on Shillingford. He's got both wickets so far in this innings. But it was about Sachin Tendulkar yesterday. And if you want to know how good that innings was, we were talking about it at stumps. But here's a man who spent quite a lot of time with him in international cricket. We caught up with Rahul Dravid last evening on his thoughts on how Tendulkar made that 38 not out. Here's what Rahul had to say. He was talking to Vishal Dikshit.
I thought he was very decisive today. I think his judgment of length was really good. I mean, the first couple of boundaries he hit were a good example of that. As soon as Shane Shillingford, dropped fractionally short, and it wasn't really short, the first one he hit for 4, the cut shot. He rocked back and cut it for 4, and then when he tossed the next one up, he got a good stride in and actually drove that past mid-off for 4. So that, for me, was a good reflection of his sort of decisiveness. We've seen a little bit recently that at times like this, when sort of Sachin comes in for about an hour, with an hour to go to the end of a day's play, sometimes he might actually have just played out time or played for the next day, tried to sort of ensure that he plays low risk shots and plays defensively so that he ensures he's not out for the next day. But today you got the impression that he sort of, played more on the merits of the ball and was actually a lot more decisive and looking to be a little bit more positive. He wasn't rash. By no means, was he ever rash. but definitely a lot more positive and looking to sort of score runs and not really looking for the end of the day, so to speak.
Oh, nice video there, Sanjay. And like you said, not rash, but you saw the first ball that he got his first run off, or the second or third ball, was kind of a little bit of a slog sweep to just get away from it. But your reaction was positive. So there was a different approach yesterday.
Yes, he wasn't as careful as he often is at this stage of his career. Another good point that Rahul made was that very often, come tea, come lunch, come end of day's play, he would just decide in his mind, I'm not going to play a single shot. Just survive, and sometimes that's gone against him because you lose that rhythm of batting. Nothing of the kind happened last evening. I thought he was different, and again you can see the instinct of the Indian batsman. There again he's talking about going on to the back foot the moment the ball is fractionally short. We talked about Rohit Sharma, Ashwin doing it in the last match. In this test match we've seen Tendulkar do it beautifully.
Ajit, how much, like Sanjay said, how much do the West Indian bowlers assist Tendulkar in not bowling in the areas that troubled him? Is it also about being able to execute a plan and not just having one in mind?
No, absolutely. Like said before, especially Gabriel. I mean, to seamers, Sachin's obviously gotten out a bit bold, and like before in recent times, didn't bowl a single ball to him on stumps. So, but he looked a lot relaxed than what we've seen him in recent times when he got to the crease. And that's where the positiveness came from, and just kept playing his shots. If he continues to do that, gets through the first few minutes today, it should be a good day.
Also another thing, with Tendulkar, I mean, he's always got the crowd factor to worry about. With lesser mortals like us, didn't have to worry. When we came in, there wasn't a huge row, standing ovation and all that. So he's come to terms with that, and he has a way of handling it. I remember there was this World Cup match that we played where Javed Miadad had come in and we were on fire, and we had picked up 2-3 wickets, and he had said, just bat for 10 minutes, these guys will just quieten down, these Indians are making a lot of noise now. I think Tendulkar also plays with the crowd in a way. So I think after first 10 minutes he knew that they will just relax a bit, and you could see after 5-10 minutes also he was that much more relaxed. So it's not just about the bowler that he has to worry about. I think he also plays with the kind of pressure that comes from the outside. I mean, people think that, he can insulate himself from all that, but, it's not humanly possible because you're hearing it all the time.
Yeah, well, 24 years of a career for Tendulkar, and about 24 of those years have been with a lot of pressure. But the other team in this was, of course, the West Indies, and we've been talking about them, and they did collapse to spin. Spin was their downfall yet again. It's different from the West Indies of the earlier days, where they came to India and they could play spinners of the highest quality. India had some pretty good spinners. We'll get Sanjay and Ajit's thoughts on how things have changed. But first, we caught up with a man from the Caribbean. Jeffrey Dujon's a very popular man on the microphone and on TV. I caught up with him a little while at the end of the day's play yesterday. Here's what he had to say when he compared both the West Indies of old and of the present one.
The West Indies team that I played in, that the confidence level was a lot higher because the win rate was also very, very high. So you would have been dealing then with a team that had a totally different mental attitude. They're not as technically good as they used to be, but the decisions that they make, I think, are more as a result of pressure, trying to ease the pressure, going down the wicket and attacking, than proper planning. And as a result of this, you will tend to see more mistakes. For example, you wouldn't see anyone coming down the track just to change the angles and get a single. They come down to attack. They come down to try to make the bowler back off. And this is something that plays into the hands of experienced bowlers like Ashwin and Oja.
Yeah, interesting points from Jeff Dujon. Now, I remember the last test, Sanjay, we spoke of when you were doing, demonstrating in the zone for us, you spoke of how you wouldn't come down the wicket to a spinner unless you had the intent of attacking. Does Dujon's point of view differ with yours, or is it similar?
I think he's making the same point of view. What he's saying in the olden time, they would come down to take control of the bowling. And I think what he's trying to say is, so much of the game is played in the mind. And people like Dujon, who played a lot of cricket, know even better, and they're so sure that everything is in the mind. So he hits the nail on the head when he says the confidence level was so high. And the confidence level of this team is so low. So when they're looking to attack the spinner as a different option from just defending, it's out of insecurity. And when you do that with self-doubts, with an insecure, slightly panicky mind trying to attack, you know what the result is going to be. Viv Richards never looked to attack an Indian spinner out of insecurity. It was just about, dominating them more. It's so much a mental thing, isn't it?
And yes,
sorry,
Ajit, please.
You've got to find a way to score runs. I mean, not everyone's got a great technique.
Yeah.
That's what he said. I mean, you try and unsettle a bowler, but in your way, and not just go blindly and slog. You've got to find your own way to get runs. And I don't think West Indies in these trainings have at least found it yet.
Okay, but if you compare the spinners, now we've got Pragya, Noja and Ashwin, who by all means, while might just about being establishing themselves, they're still an emerging pair of spinners. Back then in the 70s, you had Bedi, Prasanna, who was the Chandrasekhar, before my time with Venkat, you had good spinners, established spinners. What was the difference in the is it just a difference in personnel that it was the Richards and co? Was there something else about the way they played spinners?
West Indies at the time was a strong team, one of the top 2 teams in world cricket. And don't forget, their batsmen obviously grew up in West Indies, but played a lot of cricket away from West Indies. A lot of their players would play professionally in Australia, in England. So their game was universal game. And they gave a lot of importance to Indian tours because they liked the challenge of Indian spinners. And when you talk about the 3 spinners that you mentioned, they were maestros. Yeah. They were brilliant, and they weren't bowling on flat pitches. They were turning pitches that they were bowling on. But these guys had the skills, the confidence, the experience behind them. And if you had to break into the West Indian team as a batsman, you had to be very good because you're dislodging some top-class batsmen there. Yep. Standards have completely dropped. And because of that, there's just no self-confidence. And when you are caught on a turning pitch, in a situation like this, 1 test down, people around the bat, such teams get found out even more.
Yeah. The West Indian bowling, like we spoke about yesterday, was one that did assist Tendulkar getting himself in. Of course, the openers got off to a good start as well. We spoke about Shannon Gabriel, who didn't pretty much put the ball in the right areas. If you take a look at what the figures of the bowling West Indian bowlers were like, now that's the surprise right at the top. Darren Sammy opened the bowling, took the new ball in his hands, didn't do much. Shannon Gabriel went for quite a few as well. Shillingford, the only man who troubled the Indians in that innings. Tino Best, just the 5 overs again. Samuels has bowled as much at him. I must put this to you, Ajit. This Tino Best being underused or not, is he the kind of bowler that you just cannot use in long spells?
No, can't be. I mean, he's one of the frontline seamers. Yeah. So, I mean, if you didn't have enough confidence in him, you don't play him. But he's obviously one of their frontline bowlers. So you've got to show a bit of faith in him, especially in a game where you've been bowled out for 160. I mean, you saw at Gabriel, his pitch map showed a nice cluster, correct, but he's still gone for 5 and over. So it's not helping either. So you may as well have a go at someone who gets it up there at about 140, 145 Ks and try and unsettle the batsman, because nothing else is working for you at the moment. And just 5 overs in the day towards the closing stages of the game, where he's one of your attacking bowlers, is probably not enough.
All right, so let's get back to Tendulkar, because the morning is going to be about Tendulkar, and who knows, depending on how he bats session after session after session, maybe about Sachin Tendulkar. And even if he gets out first ball, it's still going to be about Sachin Tendulkar, about how he prepares overnight. Now we've got Rahul Dravid to tell us about that in just a moment. But when you were with him, the overnight Tendulkar, was there any difference on being not out overnight? Did it make a difference that he's to go back and bat again? Was it just business as usual in those days?
The Tendulkar that I shared a room with or knew very closely was a young Tendulkar. Dilip Vengsarkar very early, in my career, about 89, 90, asked me, how did you sleep the night before the test match? And I said, I slept fine. And he said, get older, play more cricket, and it's not going to be that easy. And that happened to all of us. For different reasons. There was a big day the next day, and the nights are not easy. Tendulkar, I know for a fact, is at least during that time, he was just happy being in the room. And as I said, people that he enjoyed his time with, people who were not too serious, people who weren't going to talk about cricket, the Harbhajan Singhs, the Samir Dighes, Atul Ranades of the world, who would come and just have a laugh. And he's at his best and in that company, and I think that's how he may have looked to spend last evening. Whether Anjali would have allowed that, I'm not so sure. But he would be in the zone. There was a time in Pakistan when I went to his room during that Multan test match, which was a difficult one for him because that 200 incident happened. When I went to his room, he had a golf club in his hand, and there was a glass that he had put horizontally, and he was just
office golf that we all play.
Trying to hit the balls. When he was very young, there was always music that was played on his big 2-in-1 at the time in the toilet, loudly. So anything to take his mind off. But you could see that one part of his brain was still not out, whatever the score, and I've got a job unfinished there.
Well, just on that point, for both of you, what category did the two of you fall into? The serious kind that would talk cricket at the end of the day, or my back lift was here and my front foot was here, or was it the Harbhajan Singh, Samir Digge, Atul Ranade of the world?
I was too tired after bowling a few overs, but I slept terribly on nights before a game. But that's just a personality thing, but nothing compared to what he's going at the moment, I'm sure.
What about the nights when you had a difficult career towards the end? What about the nights when you knew that tomorrow is the match that matters, I have to put in a good performance or my career is over? Because that must be a terrible feeling.
Yeah, it's not a nice feeling to have. I mean, you're always anxious anyway playing an international game, which I was always. To add to that, when you have a scenario like that, yeah, it's never nice. I mean, I didn't sleep well before most international games,
So
but there were guys in
up during the night.
Yeah, terrible. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, your alarm set for 7 a.m. or whatever, but you've been awake since 3:30.
Oh, okay.
But there have been guys in the team who sleep really well, and I don't understand how.
I'm guessing Sehwag would be sleeping.
Yeah, I think he's one of those guys who enjoys his sleep anyway.
Mr. Manjrekar, you've asked the question, but you've not answered mine. What kind were you at the end of the day?
You know, as I said, as my career, you know, went on, and there was at that time, you know, people thought I had retired very early at the age of 32, but from 93 to 97, my career was a struggle. You know, every match I had to play well to save my skin and all that, so it was tough. It just became that much more difficult to have a peaceful night. Right at the start, I would maybe sometimes be restless out of the sheer excitement of being a confident batsman that tomorrow is the time when I'm going to get another big one. So, you know, that anxiety to go out there and, you know, get that feeling of success. That's the confidence that I had, and then the latter half was about low confidence and, oh God, what's going to happen, the bowling attack, everything. So not easy.
Not easy, and it wouldn't be easy in this last test match of Sachin Tendulkar, the last time probably that he stays unbeaten overnight in professional cricket. But like we said earlier, there's a man who's played as much professional cricket with him more than anybody else, Rahul Dravid, on how Tendulkar would have possibly spent last night, because I know millions of fans wouldn't have slept easy. Here's what Rahul had to say.
One of the challenges Sachin faces, I think, and definitely in India, is that you know, there's no getting away from it for him. You know, people are going to talk about wanting him to score 100 tomorrow, wherever he went, even if he went down, you know, to the restaurant. You know, waiters and people just on the floor. You know, your housekeeping staff, everyone, you know, sort of wishes you well and talks to you about it. So he'd be no getting away for him from that. So I would think that he would probably stay in the room, maybe have his family over since it's Mumbai, or just get a few of his teammates over and just order some room service and try and talk about things not related to the game. You know, try and talk about different topics and other stuff that would probably sort of, you know, keep his mind away from the game, which is the way I think he would approach it, and which is the way I think he's generally approached it through his career, is more sort of in his room service because of just the person he is, and then just getting a few close friends together with him and trying to have like a fun, relaxed evening.
He would have been. So a lovely little left-handed Tendulkar come down the wicket and whack one. I think he did a Lara there almost to clearly define where each stands when it comes to the greatest batsman in the modern era. But yeah, you heard it would have been, like Rahul said it, room service and just the family over, the friends over. This has to be a little different from any other overnight batsman, this last innings.
Yeah, but I don't. That's the great part about him. His preparation doesn't change. You know, I mean, he's very meticulous with it. He sticks to what he's done over the years. Obviously, must be feeling a little bit different last night, but I don't think it's going to change too much the preparation that he goes through. And I think he wants to be away from most things, like Rahul said there. You know, hang out with either his teammates or if his family's around with them.
Sanjay, did you
that left-handed image? Going slightly away from the preparation because this is such a Tendulkar test series. I think thought and memory of Tendulkar, this is the time to share it. You know, later I'm not so
That's
sure.
That's the image that you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah, you know, there was this evening that we had at the Wankhede Stadium where, you know, the nets were over and we were just having fun, you know, milling around on the ground. And we thought we'll do something different and we started batting left-handed. Okay. So everyone wanted to show how good they were, you know, as left-hand batsmen. All right-handed batsmen wanted to show how good they were left-handed. So we were you know, playing and everyone would say, oh, I can bat pretty well. Tendulkar obviously, you know, managed very quickly and then he set himself the next challenge. Let me see whether I can hit a six left-handed. And he asked somebody to toss the ball and we were right on the pitch there. and a couple of shots he tried left-handed, and they went quite nicely, but didn't go for a six. But you know, that amazing brain that controls a great mechanism, and in about 3-4 balls after they were tossed up, he was hitting the ball into the stands left-handed.
Left-handed, wow. Well,
same case with throwing as well. There was one time, you remember, he throws right-handed, he said, okay, let me try left-handed, and he could throw 70 meters left-handed.
He always sets the bar higher for himself, just Sachin Tendulkar. But yep, this is going to be very much his session. And if we have to quickly take a look at where the match stands before we head to the first ball of action. India won the toss yesterday. They chose to bowl first, and usually the West Indies were bundled out for 182. India in reply 157 for 2. Pragya, of course, did the damage for the West Indies. Tendulkar unbeaten on 38. Pujara 34. That's the pair that will resume batting today, but it will be all about one person in that pair. Shane Shillingford, the only man with the wickets, and India trail by 25 runs. We're almost approaching the first ball, but we've had a quick look at the pitch, Sanjay, Ajit, from the very little that we've seen here, but we did get it right yesterday from the very little that we saw. What does it look any different? Is it going to play differently in this morning session?
Definitely better. Maybe a lot less sort of seam movement than there was, or whatever there was yesterday. There might still be a bit of spin. With it being under the covers, there might be a little bit more bite first half an hour or so. But it should be a decent pitch. I mean, other than Shillingford, no one seems to have troubled the Indian batsmen so far. So, you know, I mean, if they get through the first half an hour, 40 minutes, I think it should be a good batting day.
Yeah, I think the challenge for Tendulkar in the first 15-20 minutes is that it will play slightly differently from yesterday. What we were talking about, that wonderful front foot defense, but when he goes onto the back foot, he should expect the ball to come at him sharply, bounce a little more, and I think that is the one chance that West Indies have in the morning, where the pitch will respond a little more to their bowlers. See, if Gabriel just changes his line, gets to middle stump and try bowling Tendulkar, you know, into the stumps, and Shillingford and Gabriel, I think, should be starting the bowling attack. But who knows, Sammy might be the first one to go.
Well, it won't surprise yesterday. But it's nice to see Ajit Agarkar say that the pitch is going to be better when there's less for the bowler. So that's the definition when it comes to interpreting pitches.
Even
in
bowlers
international
think like
cricket.
that.
I mean, I'm sitting here, so it's easier to say that.
That's easier to say. One last point before we go live. If today isn't a full house at the Wankhede, then no occasion ever will be.
Yeah, I can't imagine it not being full. I mean, I've been speaking to so many people overnight, and I think people have set alarms for 6 a.m. to get to the ground. So I'd be very, very surprised if it's not a full house.
Let's hope the people outside get in.
Yeah, I mean, 80%, I think they were full. I mean, the stadium was full, 80%, 70% yesterday, which is again surprising considering, you know, how big this moment is. If today there are some seats vacant, there's got to be an inquiry into it. I demand an inquiry.
There you go. Sanjay Manjrekar demands one, and maybe if there are empty seats, we'll just take a flight and take those empty seats and join you at match point from the Wankhede Stadium. But yeah, that's it's the big morning. We're all set for it, and don't forget to send in your questions to us. You can tweet us with #matchpoint, and Sanjay, Ajit, and myself will be back at lunch to tell you more about it. And well, whether Tendulkar's batting at lunch or not, he's still going to be a major talking point. Thank you for joining us in the morning session on day 2. We'll see you at lunch. Until then, enjoy the cricket. Goodbye.